The massive alien ship moved through space like a dark mountain floating among the stars. Admiral Zexthul stood on the bridge watching the blue planet grow larger on his screens. Earth looked so peaceful from this distance with its white clouds swirling over green and brown continents. The Admiral's forearms crossed behind his back as he studied the world that had ignored 3 centuries of galactic warfare. The Corvan Empire had been fighting the Zealith Coalition for longer than most species could remember. Entire star systems had been reduced to rubble in their endless conflict. Billions had died on both sides, and still the war continued with no end in sight. Now the Empire needed fresh soldiers and new resources to push back against their ancient enemies. "Admiral, we are receiving a transmission from the human orbital station," reported Communications Officer Trelvan from his station. The young Corvan's scales shifted from blue to nervous purple as he spoke. "They are requesting permission to board our vessel for the formal meeting." Zexthul nodded slowly. These humans were strange creatures, walking on only 2 legs and having just 2 arms each. Their technology seemed primitive compared to galactic standards, yet they had somehow managed to build basic space travel in less than 2 centuries. Most species took millennia to achieve such progress. "Grant them permission," the Admiral ordered, "but maintain full security protocols. We know little about their capabilities." The human shuttle approached their dreadnought with careful precision. Zexthul had to admit their pilots showed skill, even with their basic technology. The small craft docked perfectly with their massive ship despite the size difference. Within minutes, the human delegation was being escorted through the corridors by armed Corvan guards. Ambassador Lisa Grant led the human group with calm confidence. She wore a simple blue uniform with no visible weapons, followed by 3 other humans who seemed equally relaxed despite being surrounded by alien warriors. The ambassador was a middle-aged woman with gray streaks in her brown hair and intelligent eyes that took in every detail around her. "Admiral Zexthul," she said with a slight bow when they met in the main conference room. "Thank you for accepting our request to meet aboard your vessel. This is truly a historic moment for both our species." The Admiral gestured to the large table where holographic displays showed star charts of the local galactic region. Red zones marked areas under Corvan control, while blue sections belonged to the Zealith Coalition. The contested areas flashed between colors, indicating ongoing battles. "Ambassador Grant, your species stands at a crossroads," Zexthul began without delay. "The galaxy burns with war, and no world can remain untouched forever. The Zealith Coalition advances through this sector, destroying everything in their path. They show no mercy to neutral worlds." Lisa studied the star charts carefully before responding. "We understand the situation is complex, Admiral. However, humanity has only recently discovered we are not alone in the universe. This war you describe began long before our species even developed spaceflight." "That matters little to the Zealith," Zexthul replied, his voice growing harder. "They see your world as a potential threat or ally. Neutrality is not an option they recognize. Join the Empire now, and we will protect your people. Refuse and face them alone when they arrive." The human delegation exchanged glances before Lisa spoke again. "What exactly would joining the Empire require from Earth?" Zexthul activated another holographic display showing military formations and resource extraction operations. "Your world would contribute forces to our war effort. We estimate Earth could provide 50 million soldiers within 5 years. Your industrial capacity would be converted to produce weapons and ships for our fleets. In return, the Empire would establish defensive stations around your system." 50 million soldiers, Lisa repeated quietly. "That represents a significant portion of our adult population. And converting our industries would mean abandoning many civilian projects that improve life for our people. War requires sacrifice," the Admiral stated firmly. "Every world in the Empire has made similar contributions. Your people would be defending not just Earth, but galactic civilization itself against Zealith barbarism." Lisa stood and walked to one of the viewing ports, gazing out at Earth hanging in the darkness. "Admiral, may I ask how long this war has been fought?" 312 Earth years, Zexthul answered. "The Zealith struck first, destroying one of our agricultural worlds without warning. Since then, we have fought to preserve order in the galaxy. And in 3 centuries of fighting, how much closer are you to victory?" The question seemed to catch the Admiral off guard. His scales shifted slightly as he considered his response. "War is unpredictable, Ambassador. Each battle brings us closer to final triumph over our enemies." Lisa turned back to face him with a sad smile. Admiral, with respect, it sounds like this war has become its own purpose. 300 years of fighting, and both sides seem no closer to victory than when it began. Meanwhile, entire generations have known nothing but warfare. The Zealoth must be stopped, Zexthul insisted. They threaten the very foundations of galactic order. Have you ever attempted serious peace negotiations? Lisa asked. Not battlefield truces or temporary ceasefires, but genuine talks aimed at ending the conflict permanently? The Admiral's forearms spread in a gesture of dismissal. Peace with the Zealoth is impossible. They are driven by conquest and destruction. Any agreement would only give them time to rebuild their forces for another attack. Lisa nodded thoughtfully before returning to her seat at the conference table. Admiral Zexthul, I need to transmit your offer back to Earth for consideration by our government. However, I can tell you that humanity has a strong preference for finding peaceful solutions to conflicts whenever possible. Peace is a luxury that few can afford in the current galaxy, the Admiral warned. Your world's isolation has protected you thus far, but that protection will not last forever. The meeting continued for several more hours as the Admiral explained the Empire's military structure and the benefits of membership. Lisa asked detailed questions about trade agreements, cultural autonomy, and the rights of member species. Throughout the discussion, Zexthul noticed that the humans seemed more interested in understanding the war's origins than in joining either side. When the human delegation finally returned to their shuttle, Lisa paused at the docking bay entrance. Admiral, one final question. In 3 centuries of war, how many worlds have been completely destroyed? Zexthul's scales darkened. The exact number is classified, but the cost has been significant. Thank you for your honesty, Lisa replied. We will have an answer for you within 1 Earth week. As the human shuttle departed, Zexthul watched it disappear toward the blue planet below. Something about the ambassador's questions troubled him, though he could not identify exactly what. Her focus on peace negotiations seemed naive, yet her intelligence was obvious. Perhaps these humans simply did not understand the realities of galactic warfare. Within days, Earth's response arrived through official diplomatic channels. President Jake Morrison's message was brief and polite, but absolutely clear. Humanity respectfully declined to join the Corvan Empire or participate in their war against the Zealoth coalition. Earth preferred to remain neutral and focus on internal development, while hoping both sides might eventually find a path to peace. The response shocked Admiral Zexthul and his staff. In 3 centuries of war, no species had ever refused to choose a side when directly approached. The Admiral immediately transmitted Earth's response to the Imperial High Command, along with his recommendation that the humans be marked as primitively naive but potentially useful in future negotiations. 6 months had passed since the Corvan delegation left Earth's solar system. The blue planet continued its peaceful orbit around the sun, while humanity worked to strengthen their defenses. Deep space monitoring stations had been built at the edge of the solar system, watching for any signs of returning alien ships. Captain Rick Hayes stood on the bridge of Earth Defense Station Sentinel, humanity's most advanced orbital platform. The massive structure floated in the darkness beyond Pluto, bristling with sensors and defensive weapons. Rick had served in Earth's Navy for 15 years before being chosen to command this crucial outpost. Captain, we're picking up unusual readings on the long-range scanners, reported Lieutenant Amy Parker from her tactical station. The young officer had been monitoring deep space for weeks without seeing anything more interesting than asteroids and cosmic radiation. Rick moved to her console and studied the data streaming across multiple screens. What kind of readings? Energy signatures consistent with faster-than-light travel, Amy replied, her voice growing tense. Multiple contacts bearing directly toward our solar system. In the communication center, Sergeant Paul Baker worked frantically to confirm the sensor data through other monitoring stations. His equipment showed the same disturbing information that Amy's tactical sensors had detected. Something big was coming toward Earth, and it was not trying to hide its approach. Captain, I'm getting confirmations from Stations Guardian and Watcher, Paul announced. Estimated time of arrival is 4 hours and 37 minutes. Rick felt his stomach tighten as he processed this information. After months of quiet monitoring, the possibility they all feared was becoming reality. Send an immediate priority message to Earth Command. Tell them we have multiple incoming contacts of unknown intent. The next few hours passed with agonizing slowness as the alien fleet approached Earth's solar system. Rick's small crew worked around the clock to gather as much information as possible about the approaching ships. What they discovered was deeply troubling. Captain, preliminary analysis suggests at least 40 vessels in the incoming fleet, Amy reported. Energy readings indicate they're much larger than the Corvin ships we met before. Are they Corvin? Rick asked, though he suspected he already knew the answer. Negative, sir. The energy signatures are completely different. Based on the intelligence briefings we received after first contact, these appear to be Zenith Coalition vessels. Rick stared at the tactical display showing red dots approaching their solar system. The Zenith were coming to Earth, but why? Humanity had refused to join either side in the Galactic War. They had made their neutrality absolutely clear to both empires. Deep in space, Fleet Commander Veltar observed Earth's yellow sun growing brighter on his ship's main screen. The Zenith officer had received specific intelligence about this system from Coalition spies operating throughout Corvin space. According to their reports, the Empire had established a secret military installation on the third planet. Commander, we are detecting primitive sensor stations at the edge of the system, reported his tactical officer. They appear to be monitoring our approach. Veltar's tentacles writhed with anticipation as he studied the incoming data. Excellent. The Corvins think they can hide their operations behind these crude human defenses. They underestimate our intelligence network. The Coalition had learned about the Corvin diplomatic mission to Earth months earlier through intercepted communications. What they did not know was that the humans had refused the Empire's offer of alliance. Veltar's intelligence report suggested that Earth was now serving as a hidden military base for Corvin operations in this sector. Sir, should we attempt to contact the human installations? Asked the communications officer. Negative, Veltar replied without hesitation. Our orders are clear. Destroy the Corvin military facility and eliminate any resistance. These humans chose their side when they agreed to host Empire forces. On Earth Defense Station Sentinel, Rick watched with growing alarm as the alien fleet arranged itself in what was clearly an attack formation. The ships spread out across a wide front, positioning themselves to strike multiple targets simultaneously. Captain, they're targeting our major cities, Amy announced, her voice filled with horror. Scanners show weapon systems locking onto New York, London, Tokyo, and at least a dozen other population centers. Rick grabbed the communication device and opened a channel to the approaching fleet. Alien vessels, this is Captain Rick Hayes of Earth Defense Command. You are approaching a neutral world. Please state your intentions. The response came immediately in accented but understandable English. Earth installation. This is Fleet Commander Veltar of the Zenith Coalition. You are harboring Corvin military forces in violation of galactic law. Surrender immediately or face destruction. Commander Veltar, you are mistaken, Rick replied urgently. Earth has no alliance with the Corvin Empire. We refuse their offer of military cooperation. There are no Corvin forces on our planet. Your deception will not save you. Veltar responded coldly. Coalition intelligence has confirmed Corvin military activity in this system. Prepare to face the consequences of your alliance with our enemies. Rick turned to Amy with desperation in his eyes. Get me a direct line to Earth Command immediately. Tell them the Zenith believe we're allied with the Corvins and they're preparing to attack civilian targets. But it was already too late. On the Coalition flagship, Veltar had grown tired of what he saw as obvious human lies meant to protect their Corvin allies. His orders were specific and allowed no room for negotiation or delay. All vessels commence bombardment, the commander ordered. Target the major population centers first, then move to secondary installations. Show these Corvin puppets the price of opposing the Coalition. The first energy beams lanced down from space like spears of pure light, striking Earth's major cities with devastating force. New York's skyline disappeared in a ball of superheated plasma as millions of people died in seconds. London, Tokyo, and Paris followed within minutes as the alien fleet systematically destroyed what they believed were military targets. Rick watched in absolute horror as his home planet burned beneath the alien assault. The tactical displays showed casualty estimates climbing into the millions as city after city vanished under the bombardment. This was not a military strike against strategic targets, but genocide against innocent civilians. Sir, incoming message from Earth Command, Paul announced through the chaos filling the station. Rick accepted the communication, hearing the voice of Admiral Kate Sullivan through static and interference. All defense stations, this is Earth Command. We are under unprovoked attack by alien forces. Civilian casualties are catastrophic. Implement Emergency Protocol 7 immediately. Emergency Protocol 7 meant total war. Every defense station was authorized to use maximum force against any alien target. More importantly, it activated Earth's hidden defensive systems that had been secretly constructed since first contact with the Corvins. Amy, target their lead vessels, Rick ordered, his voice hard with rage. Paul, send the activation codes to all defense platforms throughout the system. Lieutenant Amy Parker locked Earth's most advanced weapons onto the Zenith ships that continued their systematic destruction of human cities. Weapons ready, Captain. Fire, Rick commanded. The battle for Earth had begun, but it was already too late for the millions who had died in the opening minutes. The Zenith had made a terrible mistake based on false intelligence, attacking a peaceful world that wanted nothing to do with their ancient war. They had no idea that they had just awakened something far more dangerous than they could imagine. As Earth's hidden defense systems came online throughout the solar system, Rick Hayes stared at the burning planet below and made a silent promise. The Zenith would pay for every innocent life they had taken, and the galaxy would learn that some doors should never be opened. The attack on Earth lasted only 6 hours, but those 6 hours changed everything. When the Zenith fleet finally withdrew, they left behind a world transformed by grief and rage. 57 million humans had died in the bombardment, their only crime being in the wrong place when aliens decided to wage war based on false information. President Jake Morrison stood in the emergency command bunker deep beneath the Rocky Mountains. Surrounded by military leaders and government officials, the screens around him showed the devastation above ground where major cities had been reduced to glowing craters. His face was carved from stone as he listened to casualty reports that seemed to go on forever. Mr. President, the final count is 57.3 million confirmed dead, reported General Mike Roberts, his voice barely steady. Medical facilities are overwhelmed. Infrastructure damage is catastrophic. It will take decades to rebuild what we lost in a single day. Jake Morrison had been a peaceful man before this morning. He had built his political career on diplomacy and cooperation, believing that most conflicts could be solved through negotiation and understanding. That man had died along with 57 million of his people when the first alien energy beam struck Earth. General Roberts, I want every military facility on this planet converted to wartime production immediately, the president ordered, his voice cold as winter. Contact every defense contractor, every weapons manufacturer, every shipyard. As of this moment, Earth has only one industry and one purpose. Admiral Kate Sullivan stepped forward from her position near the communication consoles. Sir, our industrial capacity was designed for peaceful purposes. Converting to full military production will take months, maybe years. Then we make it happen in weeks, Morrison replied without hesitation. I don't care what it costs or what we have to sacrifice. Every factory that made civilian goods yesterday will make weapons tomorrow. Every shipyard that built cargo vessels will build warships. Every resource on this planet is now dedicated to one goal. The transformation of Earth began within hours of the President's declaration. Colonel Dan Mitchell took charge of the massive industrial conversion effort, working around the clock to retool factories across the globe. Manufacturing plants that had produced automobiles began churning out military vehicles. Electronics facilities that made consumer goods switched to radar systems and weapons guidance computers. Dr. Helen Carter led the most critical project of all, reverse engineering the alien technology captured from wreckage left by the Zenith bombardment. Her teams worked with desperate intensity, knowing that human weapons might not be enough against alien defenses. Every piece of debris from the attack was analyzed, studied, and copied. The alien energy weapons operate on principles we barely understand, Dr. Carter reported to the President during one of his daily briefings. But we're making progress. Give us 3 months and we'll have prototype weapons that can match their firepower. You have 6 weeks, Morrison replied firmly. After that, our ships start leaving this system whether they have alien weapons or human ones. Commander Steve Rogers coordinated the recruitment effort as millions of volunteers flooded military offices across the globe. These were not soldiers seeking adventure or glory, but ordinary people transformed into warriors by the loss of their families and friends. Teachers, mechanics, farmers, and office workers all demanded the chance to fight back against the aliens who had murdered their loved ones. The speed of Earth's mobilization shocked intelligence agencies across the galaxy. Both Corvin and Zealith spy networks struggled to comprehend what they were observing. Most species took years or even decades to fully convert to wartime production, but humanity accomplished the transformation in just 38 days. Sir, the orbital shipyards are reporting completion of the first warship squadron, Admiral Sullivan informed the President during a morning briefing. Captain Joe Martinez is requesting permission to begin deep space patrol missions. Morrison studied the tactical displays showing Earth's growing fleet of combat vessels. The ships were crude compared to alien technology, but they were built with one purpose in mind. Permission granted. Tell Captain Martinez that his mission is simple: find alien ships and destroy them. The first battle between human and alien forces occurred near Proxima Centauri when Captain Martinez encountered a Zealith patrol squadron. The aliens expected an easy victory against what they considered primitive human technology. They discovered their mistake when Lieutenant Commander Susan Wright's fighters attacked with tactics that no galactic military had ever encountered. Human pilots fought like cornered animals, using ramming attacks and suicide runs that horrified the alien crews. When conventional weapons failed, humans improvised with mining explosives and improvised devices that turned their ships into guided bombs. The Zealith patrol was completely destroyed while the humans lost only 3 vessels. They fight without honor, reported the surviving Zealith commander to Fleet Command. These humans use tactics that violate every rule of civilized warfare. They show no concern for their own survival if it means destroying enemy ships. Similar reports began reaching both Corvin and Zealith leadership as human forces pushed deeper into galactic space. Major Linda Thompson led ground assaults that ignored established warfare protocols, treating every battle as a fight to the death rather than a political exercise. Her soldiers fought with personal hatred that alien warriors could not match. Admiral Scott Davis commanded the growing human fleet with ruthless efficiency, abandoning traditional battle formations for swarm tactics that overwhelmed alien defenses through sheer numbers and aggression. His ships were individually weaker than their alien counterparts, but they operated with coordination that seemed almost supernatural. The galaxy watched in growing alarm as human forces began appearing in multiple star systems simultaneously. Earth's industrial capacity had produced an enormous fleet in record time, supported by a population that demanded vengeance for their murdered families. Every human ship carried the names of destroyed cities and casualty counts painted on their hulls. They're not fighting a war, observed Corvin Intelligence Analyst Kevron in a report to the Imperial High Command. They're conducting an extermination campaign. These humans have no interest in conquest or political advantage. They simply want to kill every alien involved in the attack on their world. Both empires tried to establish communication with human military commanders, hoping to explain that the attack had been a mistake based on false intelligence. The response was always the same. Any alien ship that came within weapons range was destroyed without warning or negotiation. Colonel Alex Brown became famous throughout human space for his response when Corvin forces attempted to arrange a prisoner exchange. The aliens who bombed our cities didn't exchange prisoners, he transmitted back. They killed civilians. Now we kill soldiers. This seems like a fair trade to me. Dr. Robert King's weapons development program produced increasingly devastating technologies as human scientists worked with cold fury to create better ways to destroy alien ships. Every advance was immediately installed on existing vessels and incorporated into new construction. The human fleet grew stronger with each passing week. General Lisa Moore's logistics network supplied human forces across multiple star systems with efficiency that impressed even allied alien observers. Earth's entire economy had been reorganized around supporting the military campaign, creating supply lines that functioned with mechanical precision. The first liberated world fell to human forces after a 3-day battle that left the Zealith garrison completely destroyed. Commander Sam Davis addressed the surviving alien civilians with a message that would be repeated across dozens of worlds. Your leaders chose to attack innocent people on Earth. We are here to ensure that never happens again. 2 years after the attack on Earth, the galaxy had become a very different place. The ancient war between the Corvin Empire and Zealith coalition continued, but now both sides faced a third force that followed none of their established rules. Human fleets appeared throughout galactic space like a plague, bringing destruction to any alien military forces they encountered. Major Linda Thompson crouched behind the rubble of what had once been a Corvan administrative building on the planet, Kepler 442b. Her Marines were preparing for the final assault on the alien garrison that had controlled this world for over a century. The local population, a species called the Velthari, had been enslaved by the Empire for so long that most had forgotten what freedom looked like. Major, we have visual confirmation of the enemy command center, reported Sergeant Billy Jones through his communication device. Looks like they're trying to evacuate their senior officers. Linda adjusted her weapon and checked the explosive charges attached to her belt. Human military doctrine had evolved far beyond what either alien empire considered acceptable warfare. Every soldier carried enough firepower to level a city block, and they were trained to use it without hesitation. Negative on the evacuation, she replied coldly. These are the same aliens who bombed our cities. Nobody leaves that building alive. The assault began with coordinated explosions that brought down half the Corvan command structure in the first 30 seconds. Human Marines poured through the breach using weapons that combined Earth engineering with captured alien technology. The result was devastation that shocked even experienced Corvan warriors. Admiral Scott Davis watched the liberation of Kepler 442b from the bridge of his flagship, the UES Vengeance. The massive human warship hung in orbit above the planet, surrounded by dozens of smaller vessels that formed the Seventh Fleet. Every ship in the formation bore the names of destroyed Earth cities and the numbers of their dead. Admiral, we're receiving surrender offers from 3 more Corvan worlds in this sector, reported Communications Officer Jenny Williams. They're requesting terms for peaceful transition to human protection. Scott studied the tactical display showing the collapse of Imperial authority across multiple star systems. The Corvan Empire had ruled these worlds for centuries, but their military forces were no match for human aggression and superior numbers. More importantly, the subject species were rising against their overlords with human support. Tell them the terms are simple, Scott replied without emotion. Complete withdrawal of all Imperial forces, liberation of all enslaved populations, and full cooperation with human administrators. Any resistance will be met with orbital bombardment. The human approach to warfare horrified both alien empires because it ignored every convention of galactic conflict. Traditional battles were fought between military forces for political objectives, with civilian populations generally protected by mutual agreement. Humans treated every engagement as total war, where the complete destruction of enemy forces was the only acceptable outcome. Captain Mary Johnson commanded the ground forces on the former Zelith, stronghold of Tau Ceti Prime. Her soldiers moved through the captured alien city with mechanical efficiency, processing prisoners and securing military equipment. The local Zelith population watched in terror as their seemingly invincible military was dismantled by human forces. Captain, we've located the mass graves, reported Lieutenant Chris Anderson, his voice tight with controlled anger. Looks like they executed about 50,000 civilians before we arrived. Mary felt the familiar cold rage that had driven human forces across the galaxy. Every liberated world revealed new evidence of alien brutality against conquered populations. The discovery always had the same effect on human soldiers, hardening their resolve to show no mercy to their enemies. Document everything, she ordered. Make sure the evidence reaches Earth Command. Add those 50,000 to the bill we're collecting from the Coalition. Dr. Robert King had become the most feared human in galactic space, though few aliens had ever seen his face. His weapons development laboratories produced increasingly deadly technologies that human forces deployed with ruthless efficiency. Every captured alien ship was studied and its weaknesses exploited in new weapon designs. Doctor, the latest plasma cannon tests exceeded all expectations, reported his assistant, Dr. Nancy Clark. The new design can penetrate Corvan shields with 40% less power consumption. Robert nodded as he studied the test results on his computer screen. The weapon would be installed on every human ship within the month, giving them an even greater advantage over alien defenses. His only regret was that each new weapon meant the war would last longer before every enemy was destroyed. Increase production immediately, he ordered. I want 10,000 units ready for deployment by next week. General Lisa Moore coordinated the massive logistics network that kept human forces supplied across dozens of star systems. Her organization moved weapons, ammunition, food, and replacement personnel with efficiency that impressed even neutral alien observers. The entire effort was supported by Earth's transformed economy, which produced materials faster than alien intelligence agencies believed possible. General, we're getting requests for humanitarian aid from 17 liberated worlds, reported Colonel Dave Miller from the Supply Coordination Center. The alien administrations left these populations without basic necessities. Lisa reviewed the requests on her tablet, noting the scale of suffering that alien rule had inflicted on subject species. Approve all requests immediately. Make sure these people understand that humans protect those who cannot protect themselves. The liberation campaigns had an unexpected effect on galactic politics. As species that had been enslaved for centuries discovered they had powerful new allies. Word spread quickly through underground networks that humans would fight to free any population oppressed by either empire. Rebellions began erupting across both Corvin and Zealth territory. Commander Sam Davis specialized in diplomatic missions to newly contacted species, explaining human intentions and offering protection from their former rulers. His message was always the same, delivered in whatever language the local population understood. The Corvin Empire and Zealth coalition have terrorized this galaxy for 300 years, he would tell gathered crowds of alien civilians. They attacked our peaceful world and murdered 57 million innocent people. Now we are here to ensure they can never hurt anyone else again. Both alien empires struggled to understand how their ancient conflict had been completely transformed by a species that had wanted nothing to do with galactic warfare. Human forces showed no interest in conquest or territorial expansion, focusing entirely on the destruction of Imperial and Coalition military assets. Corvin High Command held emergency sessions trying to devise strategies to counter human tactics, but their traditional approaches proved useless. Humans ignored offers of negotiation, refused to acknowledge battlefield conventions, and treated every encounter as a fight to the death. They cannot be reasoned with, reported General Vexler, after his forces were destroyed in the Centauri sector. These humans fight with personal hatred that makes them completely unpredictable. Our standard battle doctrines are worthless against enemies who gladly sacrifice themselves to destroy our ships. Similar reports reached Zealth Coalition leadership as their military forces crumbled before human advances. The Coalition had grown powerful by exploiting the weaknesses of traditional galactic warfare, but humans followed no recognizable patterns. They used weapons and tactics that violated every rule of civilized conflict. Fleet Commander Veltar, who had ordered the original attack on Earth, found himself trapped in a star system, surrounded by human vessels. His once mighty fleet had been reduced to a handful of damaged ships trying to escape the relentless pursuit of human forces. "Sir, incoming transmission from the lead human vessel," reported his communications officer. "They're demanding our immediate surrender." Veltar looked at the tactical display showing dozens of human ships closing in around his small fleet. "Open a channel." The response came immediately in cold, precise English. "Coalition vessels. This is Admiral Tony Martinez of the Human Defense Force. You are the fleet that attacked Earth 2 years ago. Surrender is not an option." 3 years had passed since the attack on Earth, and the galaxy looked nothing like it had before. The ancient war between the Corvin Empire and Zealth Coalition had collapsed under the relentless pressure of human military campaigns. Both alien governments struggled to maintain control over their remaining territories as rebellions erupted across dozens of worlds. Fleet Commander Veltar sat in chains aboard the human prison ship, UES Justice, waiting for his trial to begin. The Zealth officer who had ordered the bombardment of Earth now faced judgment for what humans called crimes against innocent life. His once mighty fleet had been destroyed in the final battle at Proxima Centauri, with Veltar himself captured when his flagship was boarded by human marines. Admiral Zexthul of the former Corvin Empire occupied a cell across the corridor, equally bound by human restraints. The four-armed alien who had first offered Earth membership in their ancient war now awaited the same justice as his former enemy. Both commanders had been declared war criminals by the newly formed Terran Commonwealth. Judge Patricia Wilson entered the makeshift courtroom that had been constructed in the main hangar of the Justice. The human legal system had been adapted to handle alien defendants, but the basic principles remained unchanged. Evidence would be presented, witnesses would testify, and justice would be delivered according to Earth law. This tribunal will come to order, Judge Wilson announced to the assembled crowd of humans and aliens who had gathered to witness the proceedings. We are here to determine the guilt or innocence of the defendants in the unprovoked attack on Earth that resulted in the deaths of 57 million innocent civilians. The trial lasted for 2 weeks as prosecutors presented evidence of the systematic bombardment of Earth's major cities. Survivors testified about losing their families in the alien attack, while military experts explained how the bombardment had targeted civilian populations rather than military installations. The evidence was overwhelming and undeniable. Veltar's defense attorney, a human lawyer appointed by the court, argued that his client had acted on false intelligence provided by coalition spies. The Zenith commander genuinely believed he was attacking a military target, not a peaceful civilian population. The argument carried some weight, but not enough to excuse the scale of destruction. Ignorance of the truth does not absolve one of responsibility for mass murder, Judge Wilson ruled, when the defense rested their case. The defendant ordered the bombardment of population centers without verification or warning. The court finds Fleet Commander Veltar guilty of crimes against humanity. Admiral Zexthul faced similar charges for his role in the conflict that led to Earth's attack. Although he had not personally ordered the bombardment, prosecutors argued that his intelligence reports had contributed to the false information that motivated the Zenith strike. The court found him guilty of conspiracy and sentenced him to life imprisonment on a human penal. Colony President Jake Morrison addressed the reformed Galactic Assembly from the podium of what had once been the Imperial Senate building on the Corvin capital world. The chamber was filled with representatives from dozens of species that had been liberated by human forces during the 3-year campaign. The old order was gone, replaced by something entirely new. The age of ancient hatreds and endless warfare is over, Morrison declared to the assembled delegates. For 3 centuries, 2 empires terrorized this galaxy in the name of their petty disputes. Billions died to feed their hunger for power and conquest. That madness ends today. The Terran Commonwealth had emerged from the ashes of the old galactic order, built on principles that most alien species found revolutionary: democratic representation, protection of civilian populations, and peaceful resolution of disputes formed the foundation of the new government. Species that had been enslaved for centuries now had equal voices in galactic affairs. Secretary of State Rachel Moore worked with representatives from 43 different species to draft the new galactic charter that would govern interstellar relations. The document established strict rules about military conduct, prohibited attacks on civilian targets, and created enforcement mechanisms to prevent future wars. Every species in this galaxy deserves the right to live in peace, Moore explained during one of the charter negotiations. The old system of conquest and subjugation is finished. From now on, disputes will be settled through negotiation and compromise, not orbital bombardment. Admiral Kate Sullivan commanded the joint human-alien patrol fleets that maintained order across the former war zones. Her ships carried crews from multiple species working together to protect trade routes and respond to emergencies. The sight of former enemies cooperating under human leadership sent a powerful message across the galaxy. Admiral, we're receiving a distress call from a cargo convoy in the Vega system, reported Communications Officer Tommy Baker from his station aboard the flagship UES Harmony. Pirates are attacking civilian freighters. Kate nodded and turned to her mixed crew of humans and aliens. Set course for Vega immediately. All ships prepare for combat operations. We will not allow innocent civilians to be harmed. The response was swift and decisive as the patrol fleet arrived to find the pirates fleeing at maximum speed. The criminals had learned that attacking civilian targets now brought immediate retaliation from the Commonwealth Defense Force. Trade flourished under the protection of the new galactic government. Dr. Helen Carter had established research facilities on dozens of worlds where human and alien scientists worked together to develop technologies for peaceful purposes. The weapons laboratories that had produced humanity's instruments of war were converted to medical research centers and terraforming projects. Doctor, our joint research team has achieved another breakthrough in agricultural engineering, reported Dr. Marcus Webb from the research station on Kepler 442b. The new crop varieties will increase food production by 40% on worlds with marginal climates. Helen smiled as she reviewed the research data on her computer screen. The same scientific genius that had created weapons to destroy alien fleets was now being used to feed hungry populations and heal damaged worlds. The transformation felt like justice for all the lives lost in the ancient war. The memorial on Earth remained the most visited site on the planet, where millions came each year to remember the 57 million people who died in the alien attack. Admiral Kate Sullivan made the pilgrimage every year on the anniversary, placing flowers at the base of the simple monument that bore the names of every victim. The inscription carved into the black stone was visible from orbit, ensuring that every visiting alien could read the warning it contained. They came to the wrong door. We made sure the galaxy remembers. Below, the words were listed the names of destroyed cities and the final casualty. Count from that terrible day. Children from dozens of species now played together in the rebuilt cities of Earth, their parents working side by side in the industries and schools that had risen from the ashes. The planet that had wanted nothing to do with galactic warfare had become the center of a new peaceful civilization that spanned the stars. The old galactic order had been built on fear, conquest, and the subjugation of weaker species by stronger ones. The new Commonwealth operated on cooperation, mutual respect, and the protection of all intelligent life. The change had come at a terrible price, paid in the blood of 57 million innocent humans. But from that tragedy had emerged something better than what existed before. The galaxy learned that some species should never be awakened to war, and some doors should never be opened. Earth had not wanted to join the galactic community's ancient conflicts, but once forced to participate, they had not merely ended the war, but eliminated the possibility of such wars ever happening again. The age of endless galactic warfare was over, replaced by an era of peace enforced by those who understood its true value. The galaxy would remember the lesson taught by humanity, that those who attack the innocent will face justice, no matter how long it takes or how far they run. Peace had finally come to the stars, written in the language that the old empires understood best.